So today's passage is Luke chapter 12, verses 1 to 12. This is a passage where Jesus is speaking to his disciples, and in my Bible it lists as warnings and encouragements. Now, in this passage, in verse 10, you'll read mention of the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, the unforgivable sin. Now, many people have tried over the years to work out what exactly did Jesus mean by the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, the unforgivable sin. Partly to work out, have I committed it? And many people have asked the question and tried. And if you've been maybe reading this passage today and thought, oh, what is that blasphemy against the Holy Spirit, the unforgivable sin? Well, I want to tell you today that the blasphemy against the Holy Spirit is way too big a topic to discuss in a session like this. But what I will say is that what it isn't is a stumbling block, a trap for the unwary. It's not something you do by accident. So as a general rule, if you think you might have committed the unforgivable sin, then you haven't. Okay, so don't worry too much about it. What I do want to focus on today is where Jesus is talking about fear. He says in the passage, do not fear those who can only kill the body, and after that do nothing more, but rather fear him who after the body has been killed has the authority to throw you into hell. Now, God, whoa, it's a bit strong. But Jesus says, yes, I tell you, fear him. It's talking about God. But then he goes on to talk about the sparrows and how we value sparrows as pretty worthless common birds, but to God they are very valuable. But God even says about us that we are worth more than many sparrows. So if you needed a bit of a boost for your self-esteem today, there it is. You are more valuable than many sparrows. And Jesus says that even the hairs on your head are numbered. God knows you intimately. But then he goes on to say, because of those things, do not be afraid. So he says, fear God. Then he says, do not be afraid. Now there's a conundrum. How does that work? How can we fear God yet not be afraid? Well, first of all, it's not any linguistic jiggery-pokery. The word used for fear and do not be afraid is the same word. It's not a subtle difference with a subtle difference of meaning. It's literally the same word. And often we talk about fear of God as meaning, well, it's awe and wonder, not really fear. Well, awe and wonder is definitely part of it. But the root word that the Bible uses here is phobos. You know, that's the root of this word, is phobos. Phobia is the word we use in English. Now, it's come to kind of mean things like, well, you don't like something maybe, or you're prejudiced against something, but the root meaning is fear or terror. If someone has arachnophobia, a fear of spiders, they're not in awe of spiders, they are terrified of them, they run away. So there is also this sense of genuine fear and terror. And I think that's important. But why? Well, in Luke 12 it says that we fear him who has the authority to throw us into hell. You see, God has the power and authority to judge. And he will judge. You know, the Bible is unequivocal, is absolutely clear. There will be a judgment. Sin will be judged. And let's make no mistake about that. So he literally has the power over our eternal destiny. So yes, let's fear him, because he has a lot of power over us. But yet at the same time, God is the God of love. And in Jesus, through his death on the cross, we can access that love and that mercy and that forgiveness and that grace. So yes, we fear God because of his power, his authority and his judgment. But yet we're not afraid because of his love and his grace and his mercy. You see, in 1 John it says, perfect love casts out all fear, because fear has to do with punishment. And so we should fear God because of his power and authority to judge. But yet because of Jesus and what he's done on the cross and the grace and mercy and forgiveness shown to us through him, we don't fear God. We're not terrified of his judgment, because all that judgment was placed on Jesus. But it's so important that we don't take that for granted, that we don't turn God into some wishy-washy, namby-pamby, lovey-dovey God who just accepts everyone for how they are. That's the God of this age. That's the God who doesn't judge, because judgment is the worst thing you can possibly do. But the problem is, if we don't tell people that God is to be feared because he has that power and authority to judge, how can they possibly know that they need his love and his forgiveness and his grace? And so by hiding that aspect of God, that he is the God who judges, we're denying them the knowledge that they need his forgiveness and his grace. And we can even deny it to ourselves if we have that same wishy-washy image of God. So he is to be feared, but because of Jesus, we don't have to be afraid.